cut. There's a bear over there.
So I like to pitch this question to my beer drinking buddies about desert island beers. If you crashed on an island and you had beers to last you the rest of your life, what would you choose? Now, for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to do 6 beers, 3 macro, 3 craft, and some caveats. Scarcity is no issue, so if you're all about heady topper, bring heady topper. Beers for the rest of your life. Also, strength is not an issue in hangovers, so if you like a 13% imperial, bring it on the island. And lastly, there is no weather contingencies. I know some people are kind of stuck up about drinking a heavy stout during summertime, and because it's a deserted island, just bring whatever you want. Second caveat is that the distinction between macro and craft, use your best judgment. When I started drinking Sierra Nevada 20 years ago, it was craft, but now it's not. Anywho, so we're gonna have 3 macro and 3 craft. I'm gonna start from my bottom 3 and work up to my number 1. There's a lot of thoughts gone into this. It's super serious. So think about it, rest of your life. If you got 30, 40, 50 years, it's important. So on the macro side, number 3, beer Lao. And there's some interesting facts about Laos in general. 7 million people, size of California, 1 brewery. 99% of their domestic consumption was beer Lao, but they're lucky because beer Lao is amazing. We had some fresh ass beer Lao, timestamps, 10 days old, 12 days old, in these janky recycled bottles. Every time we had it, we were super pumped to have it. It's super fresh, crisp, and you just saw like a lot of quality that goes into that. A very remarkable beer. I don't know how they do it. Laos is poor as fuck. I can't say fuck, can I? Anyways, so beer Lao, big fan. Number 2. Number 2 was previously consumed by San Miguel, but it got the boot after I discovered Bohemia in Mexico. Holy crap. Bohemia, to me, is the way that I thought about Sierra Nevada Pale in the ale format, but in lager form. It's got a ton of interest there. It's got a little bitterness, so it might be kind of off-putting to somebody that's, say, like a Bud Light drinker, but I think it stood out amongst the ranks of the Corona and the Dos Equis. Totally fell in love with it. Has Saaz hops, which I thought I disliked, but it turns out I really like Bohemia. So maybe, yeah, just check that out. Blew my mind. And number 1, Guinness. And I know that might be kind of a wild card. Some of people think like, oh, that's kind of, well, it's not. It's available all over the world. There are so many different varieties of Guinness that you can get, but the one I have fallen in love with was in Korea. You get 4 tall boys, $8, 4.2% on nitro. I don't think I had a bad one in the hundreds and hundreds of Guinnesses I had in Korea. Highly recommend Korea as an outdoor drinking scene, and the food is second to none as far as I'm concerned. So even if I only could take one to the deserted island for macro, it would 100% be Guinness. Love it. On to the craft side. Number 3, craft side, would be a local brewery's cream ale, Draftworks in Missoula here. I'm not necessarily married to that cream ale per se. I think cream ale in general is really good, very approachable. The first beer of a session, never a bad choice. I do wonder, however, as I go further down this list, you're going to notice a reoccurring theme. So maybe I would give it the boot for another style, but honestly, I can't think of it. I wouldn't do like a wheat ale. I feel like those are typically boring, or an amber. So that's my number 3 place setter. I'm open to suggestions for number 3. On to number 2. Absolutely love, again, craft beer, not craft beer. Founders All Day IPA. Up until 10 years ago, they were considered a craft beer. It's probably more bitter than most people would want a 4.7% beer, but that's why I love it. I'm kind of old school, that West Coast IPA. It's bright, it's super flavorful, and very consistent. Just love it. I think it would have a good place on a deserted island. And then I would have wildcard had Mosaic Promise that Founders used to make, but it's been discontinued, possibly instead of the All Day, but both real tough to choose. Number 1 would be brewery out of Daejeon that we're investors of, the mastermind, the genius that makes just a West Coast IPA called Big Field. It's 6.8%, I think. It's in the 60 to 70 IBU range. It's clear. It's bitter, it's aromatic, it's light to medium bodied. It's just so inviting for more beers. It's not like tangled up in that IBU race that was in the 2010s where it was just tongue-buckingly bitter. It's very well balanced, on the cusp of being too bitter for some, but that's why I like it. It's clearness, it's crispness. It reminds me of older times and beers that I grew up drinking that are hard to find. The West Coast IPA is hard to find now. So what is the purpose of all this? The take-home point is take a look at these beers that you would love to drink for the rest of your life and kind of reverse engineer them. What do they have in common? For me, as mentioning, my number 3, number 2, number 1 on the macro side are all light beers, like as far as color goes. And you know, how can I take that? Maybe they share a same base malt. Well, that makes my brewing a little bit easier because I don't have to have all these things that are distracting. Like even Guinness itself is probably 3 malts, your 70, 20, 10. Your base malt and your roasted, your flaked barley and then your roast. Like that's very simple. So would you bring an imperial stout to the island? I don't know. I just don't think it has the repeatability. And those are my beers. So I look forward to kind of dissecting them more and just figuring out what I like. But this has been 20 some years in the making and I'm pretty satisfied with those choices. So after 20 years of brewing and 20 plus years of drinking and a lot of thought, these were the beers that I would bring to Desert Island. But I want to know what you think. What are your beers to go to? Maybe it's a hazy, I don't know. I'm not into hazies. As these trends come and go, I wonder what's going to stick and what's not. But I know for me, something light, something with a hop presence will always make me happy and very satisfied. So if you like this video, consider subscribing, give it a thumbs up and all the things.
Cut. There's a bear over there.
Well, I guess there is. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, and until the next one, see you then.